Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Chad Franzen here, co-host of the Top Business Leaders Show, where we feature CEOs, entrepreneurs, and top leaders in the business world. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. B2B businesses reach their dream relationships and connect with more clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships, and get ROI through Done For You podcasts. If you have a B2B business and want to build great relationships, there's no better way to do it than to profile the companies and people you admire on your podcast. To learn more, go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25.com. My guest today is Sharon Seivert, the leader of Core Coaching and Consulting. Sharon has a strong background in leadership, having previously served as the CEO of a group health plan where she achieved an industry record for the earliest ever break-even. She is also the author of The Balancing Act, a foundational book that introduced a 6-point system and is used by CCC, her Core Coaching and Consulting. With a dual US and EU citizenship, Sharon values her international connections and enjoys spending time with her family, friends, colleagues, and clients. When not coaching leaders or writing books, she can be found in her front yard on the North Shore of Boston. Hey, Sharon, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
I am very good. It's so nice to see you. And just for reference, the name is Seivert. It's that Germanic and French debate about how to pronounce the EI.
Okay.
So it's spelled EI, but it's pronounced I. So but I answered anything. Pretty much.
That is something I should have asked you about before I started recording. I've seen that name before, and I've heard it pronounced other ways, so I just assumed. But okay, yeah. Sharon Seivert. Hey, so tell me kind of about. I know, as I mentioned, you're the leader of Core Coaching and Consulting, but tell me about your journey, kind of leading up to that point, and maybe some of the highlights of your background.
Okay, right. We'll start. That's a very good question. And I grew up in the Midwest. I was born here in Boston, but I grew up in the Midwest, and very early came to a realization about social justice issues. Because I was a Catholic, one of the papists in a very small town that had the Klan. And you can see from American politics how things are, recycling back to these issues. So very early on, I had a mission-driven desire to help people who were, I guess, marginalized. And in truth, a lot of my clients are people who are really great inventors and innovators and entrepreneurs, and they're not in the mainstream. So those are my people. I joke about our being on the island of broken toys, whatever that is. We have all of these people, but they're really movers and shakers, and those are what I enjoy working with. I guess the other part of my journey that's really important is that my brother John died in a workplace accident when I was in my 30s. He was in his 20s. And ever since that moment, I have been trying to reduce the pain and suffering of people in the workplace, because that was unnecessary. And there's so much unnecessary suffering and humiliation and shaming and marginalizing in the workplace. So we love, my folks and I love to work with people who want to reduce the suffering in their workplaces, have people thrive, be more creative, be happy for their families, that whole business. So we're trying to create an upward spiral.
In what ways do you feel like what are common ways that you feel people are suffering in the workplace?
They're often very heavily rule bound, working to rule, not allowing some ideas that would really help the organization be more profitable, not really allowing those ideas to come. A lot of people who are in some of the managerial positions are keeping people down because of fear. So fear is really the scourge of the workplace. The people who are managerial, afraid of losing their jobs, people below them, afraid of losing their jobs. So it's kind of it's a toxic element in workplaces. So to the degree we try to have people really claim their powers, and I talk more about the powers we have them claim, but when they're working from power, they're less susceptible to force and counterforce. That's what kills us all, is all of this effort and force and counterforce. And meanwhile, the organization is not thriving.
So what do you do to kind of reverse that, to keep them from working from fear, from the standpoint of fear?
Yeah, well, we train leaders to hold their hub of power. Wherever they stand in the organization, they have a circle of power that is theirs to do. And they can actually do much more than often than they realize. And if they do well, then people can let them do even more well. So we want to make them successful. So we work them from the inside out. We have 6 powers that we help people develop. And that first one really addresses the fear. So when we talk about balanced leadership, I want you to think about like the center and the 4 directions on a compass. We're always starting in that center place. So, you're out there in Colorado, all Fort Collins, all this kind of stuff. It's big out there. So first thing we do is we make them stop and we have them really calm down, center in themselves, and then they're much more powerful moving out through that day and through their approach. So just stopping, pausing, resetting, using all of those techniques that you're familiar with can radically change how they show up that day. So from the inside out, we first have them claim their core power. This is who I am in the world. And that doesn't step on anybody's toes if you do it right. That doesn't threaten anyone. So their threat is reduced from them and to them, if that makes sense. So we always start at that gravitational center.
So we'll get back into that in a little bit, but tell me what inspired you to kind of, how did core coaching and consulting come about?
Well, core coaching and consulting has been growing over a couple decades since I wrote my first book, The Balancing Act, which is now being reissued as The Balancing Act 2.0. I'm so excited about that. But ever since that time, I've been working with people who are resonant with me, people who want to do some of the same things in the world, which is reduce the suffering, reduce the suffering, reduce the fear, have people work more from their power. So it has been an evolution of people coming to me, people working with me, clients working with me, clients becoming partners with me, all that sort of thing. We have grown this tribe, grown this community to which everybody contributes. I have these pieces that I add, and my other people have these pieces that they add, and together we're genius. But so we add good people with good ideas. That's how it is evolved.
Great. So can you tell us then a little bit more about the Balancing Act, as you mentioned, and also the 6-point system for core coaching and consulting?
Yes, excellent. So core coaching and consulting works one-on-one with top executives, business leaders, and who want to change their companies too. And we also do group trainings inside companies to help emerging leaders. The hope of the future. We want those emerging leaders to really grab onto those powers and not repeat some of the errors of the past. So I mentioned the core power. That's number 1. We try to start with that. Sometimes we're called in because there's all kinds of craziness in Michigas and we have to start somewhere else, but we always make sure we go back and we check the boxes. So that's the core power. Once you have that, think of the classical elements of like essence is the soul of you, and that's where we start. Then we go into the mind. The next step is the mind, when we want the mind to be controlled by the core. So you often see like entrepreneurs who have like 1,000 ideas and they've got all these great things going on, and you go, okay, that's great. But now we need to tether this to your center. What is the possibility for you that is most you, that is most your organization? And that's the one we really want to lean into. So that's the power of the mind, the power of inspiration, okay? And then we move into the mission element, which is that fire element. So you're going around the wheel. And that one is, okay, now you have to choose something. You have to focus. You have to prioritize. You know that most people out there in business are trying to do 500 things at the same time. They're burning themselves out. They're burning other people out. So with that fire element, with that mission element, we want them to focus like a laser on the possibility that they need to do now. We put everything else in the parking lot. We're not going to forget those great ideas, but now we have to move into action and priorities. Once we are clear what that action is going to be, and then we know who in the group is to do what. So then we move into the water element, communicate, make sure everyone is connected. All of these are aligned. The connections and the interactions piece is aligned with the mission, with the vision, with the core, all aligned. Okay, now things are really starting to hum by this point. And then we move it into the day-to-day implementation, the resources that are needed. We get this stuff done. Lastly, what happens is that power of synergy, which holds the whole wheel, the whole compass together. And that's when things get easy and there's flow and genius ideas happen. And it all of a sudden things get easier. And it was so hard before. But because all of these powers are aligned, all of a sudden it's easier. It's like magic. So that's what we try to do with people.
How did you kind of come up with that?
I came up with it by being quiet and listening to what has been given us as human beings. This is an archetype. This is a human instinct. If you look around the world, you will see the center and the four directions as a model for health and well-being and wholeness all over the world. And so that's the model that we have taken into this and put into modern language and implementation. If we know this, it's here. It's here. It's so old that we think it comes from the human body, the core, and the four directions. That's how old it is. So it was a matter of stepping out of academic constructs and thinking, not having a lot of bells and whistles and arrows and saying, okay, here's an elegantly simple model. This is so elegant, so simple. We use it with children. And they get it faster than the CEOs. I'm sorry to say, they got it, right? They know how to language it and everything. So this is something that a CEO can take and then bring through leadership and then bring through frontline workers, and because everybody gets it. So for me, it was stepping in out of the mind and into the core, and then back out again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You've also written a couple of other ebooks, I think, Prospering, Six Steps to Great Wealth, and 6 Steps to Leading Your Life and Work. Can you tell me about some of the principles behind the 6 Steps to Great Wealth?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Well, to the degree, it's very interesting because we all have different forms of wealth. And if we align them, we can actually leverage one to the other. So if you're short on cash, your friend can maybe loan you some money, or you have a service that someone needs and that gets you money. And so all of these are actually, when they interact, we can create more wealth. So the same principles that I talked about before, if you're doing work, for example, that is in your core talents and gifts, you are much more likely to be successful. If you're forcing it because your parents were accountants and so you should be an accountant, but you're really a musician, it's not going to work. Well, you are not going to be a successful accountant. So we start with the core gifts you have, and then we create the life for you that is going to be prosperous, is what I would say. But we want you to check all the boxes, because people actually don't most of the time. So if you check those boxes and connect these to each other, your odds go way up of happiness and wealth simultaneously, because you're in the right spot. Yeah.
What about 6 Steps to Leading Your Life and Work? What can you tell us about that one?
We have a lot of people who come to us who are in major league transition. As a matter of fact, I don't know what what goes on, but they start with one transition and all of a sudden they have another. So they come to us because they're in a career transition and all of a sudden they're needing a divorce, or they have to take care of their elder parents, or it's sort of like all of these transitions often, pile up on each other. So this is a way for you to constantly reset. People ask me, how often should I reset? Anytime you feel off balance, you should stop and reset, because where you're going is not going to be pretty. So for you in your transition, most people just, they retreat, they hunker down, they make themselves small. They're trying to avoid the problems. And we say, just reset, and then we move you into it. So first you reset, and then you're ready to restart. Then we rethink what needs going on, and that corresponds to the mind. Then we prioritize what we're going to do right now. Okay, we're going to do one thing right now. And then we move into relating differently to people and relating to different people. So we might find some other people who are going to help us through this. And then we do that implementation. We just grow in steady steps, and then you'll get a different result. So there was a man by the name of Alan Deutschman who did some research, and do you know him, the Change or Die guy?
I don't.
Okay, book called Change or Die, and he said that only 1 in 9 people will sustain a change they start. 1 in 9. I mean, it's really bad. So the Leading Your Life and Work book is about leading yourself from the inside out, improving on Deutschman's model, because we have the steps that I just mentioned to you, those 6 steps. You check those boxes, get them aligned, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. This is going to be much better than if you just lie on the couch with a blanket, which I have done. We all have done, right? So when you're ready to get off the couch, and then this is a process that you can follow. So for people in transition, that's a useful book.
Do you, when it comes to your coaching practices, are diversity and inclusion something that you kind of prioritize incorporating?
Well, this happens very naturally for us. I was running the Superpower Balanced Leadership group the other day. These are people who are training to be coaches. And I looked at them and I'm going, well, this is very interesting. We have, an Asian woman, we have, people who are African American, we have someone from Pakistan, we have 2 people from Europe. We have, and there are Brazilians and other people in the background here that we've already trained. So I think that there's not so much an attempt to get out there, but that it happens very naturally for us. It's more of I guess, again, it's more of power versus force and counterforce, because unfortunately, when DEI goes into many organizations to try to correct the problems of the past, it's met with that counterforce about who the hell are you to tell us to change, right? And so for us, it's just there's a welcoming. I mean, my intention is that this is global. I mean, we were talking with people in Nigeria a couple of weeks ago about bringing this program for children, for youth, our whole program for youth. So that, and I brought it to Brazil, I brought it to other places. So when you have that awareness that you are a global citizen, which is kind of, I love to think of myself as an international woman of mystery. Okay. So that is our intention. It happens very naturally. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you feel like your approach to leadership development is kind of the future? Will leaders look like what you coach them to be? Do you feel like that's the direction everything is moving into the future? Or do you feel like you're still kind of swimming upstream?
You're from your mouth to God's ears, and when we're also swimming upstream, both are true. So this is, a holistic system, a system that's based on a living systems model for leadership in organizations, because we approach organizations as if they were alive. We align the leaders, we align the employees with the organization. We use the same model to improve things. That gives us a chance of really making a difference. And it also aligns with more recent science. The mechanical approach to organizations went out with, I don't know, when did it start? In the 18th century? So it's old. It doesn't work really well, and it dehumanizes us. It treats us as cogs, and people are going to be up against that when they feel, there's going to be stuff falling off the truck. Is that what it is? There are going to be people not working to their best because this is what they're feeling. So our mission is absolutely that we want this to be the emerging leaders modality. This is the healthiest thing we can do for leadership in organizations, in my opinion. And I've seen a lot of, a lot of leadership development, a lot of good stuff, but I do think that ours is very unusual in the living systems model and what we're trying to do to reduce the suffering.
I'm sure a lot of the things you have done and worked on over the years have been quite rewarding. Has there been a moment that has been the most rewarding in your career so far?
Oh, well, I would almost have to take that week by week.
Mhm.
I mean, I am so blessed to have so many people who've had life-changing results. Okay. Now, and that, of course, feeds me to go out there to the naysayers and say, you got to try this because da 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 da. So just last week, I had someone who had to choose between three different job offers, all good, but she chose based on her core. The thing that so that she would have done it differently. She would have taken the highest of the paying jobs, which really wasn't the highest paying because she would have to work that 80-hour week, but now she has control and freedom. Last week also, I had someone who has suffered a great deal with controlling his temper and intensity. Take one of the techniques that I had taught him, do it in real time, and then speak differently to his daughter. Now, he said that for him was life altering. He'd never been able to control that. So that's just, like last week, a few things that pop into mind. One of the first ones, though, was from Holland when one of my colleagues did this training, this leadership training, and I got a very, very sweet letter from a guy who said, Alka told me I could write to you. And I just wanted to tell you that I knew when I went into this program that I'd become a better leader. I did not realize I'd become a better father.
Mm.
And my son is leaving for college, and we now have a different relationship before he goes. No, I feel like the Lone Ranger. My work here is done. What more do you need? So those are the kinds of things that happen in this work.
Very nice. Very nice. Are there any
Very nice.
challenges that you find yourself, routinely facing?
Well, routinely facing, I have to do this work myself, don't I? I have to. One of my colleagues, Fred, says that we have to eat our own dog food, and so I am always having to apply these same principles for myself. When I'm challenged, I have to stop. I have to reset. I have to rethink things. I go through my own checklist, and it's really helping me make those kinds of progress. It's a challenge when I see people suffering. And so I sometimes I have to sit very, very quietly to figure out what's the best way to help them. Patterns of a lifetime. Undoing the imposter syndrome is a big one. Undoing the self-doubt, undoing the self-sabotage. Will you stop doing that? They're going to let you go if you keep doing that. Or this business that you have is going to fail. And it's important business. We need this business, right? Or we need you at the head of this government agency in the US because the work it's doing is critical. And I need you to be functioning optimally for that. Or, you're general counsel of a firm, you have to keep them ethically in line. All those things. So my clients all of our clients let us into these deep places. And so it's a very sacred duty that we stand with, and we help them hold their center against great odds sometimes. It's just breathtaking. It takes my breath away sometimes. So those are some of the challenges that I face. I have to stay 100% on for them.
How do you do that?
I have to do my own dog food. I have to start my day and with meditation, take care of my body. I mean, I have to do all the things that I recommend other people do. If I have to be authentic in that regard. So following my own advice has been, it's been the way I've worked. In ancient days, it used to be the magician would go out to the healer to the king would go out in the forest and they get berries. And they always had to try them themselves first, because if they gave a bad berry to the king, they were dead. And so they had to always try the stuff themselves. So that's a little bit about what we do here. And another aspect of the magician is that we are we are the guides or the helpers to the heroes that are out there. And the old stories are told that, the hero comes from battle and he's bloodied and he's beat up and he's crawling home and comes to a crossroad and he has no idea which way to go. Most people come to us at that crossroad. And then in mythology, poof, the Cheshire Cat appears or Merlin appears or some sort of magician appears and holds the space. That's what they do. They hold the space. They make the hero stop and rest and recover. And when that happens, they're ready to go. As soon as they are recovered, they know which road to take. You don't have to tell them, they know. So we're holding that space for them. That's our job.
Very nice. I have one more question for you, Sharon, but first, tell me how people can find out more about core coaching and consulting.
They can go to our website, corecoachingconsulting.com. And they can contact me on LinkedIn. I have met the most wonderful people on LinkedIn. It's really fun. There's all kinds of people out there in the world who are doing really great things, and we are developing collegial relations. As I said in the beginning, this is growing through the genius of other people. This movement, so they can get hold of me on LinkedIn, Sharon Seivert. That again, spelled EI, but pronounced I. Those Alsace-Lorraine people couldn't make up their mind. German, French. They also we have monthly core community meetings if they want to attend those. Those are free, and we love building our international community. So those are some ways people can get hold of us.
Last question for you. I don't know if you've thought about this at all, but what legacy do you hope to leave through your work as a core coaching consultant and through your work as an author?
Yes. I've been thinking a lot about the legacy issue. Mm-hmm. So for me, what I'm doing now is training the coaches who are going to carry this out in the world. I'm building a structure so that everyone can pour their genius into this, and building a structure with cooperation with other big firms so that we have ways to get this out into the world, this more colorful approach to leadership. And I want this to be a force for evolution. This is a roadmap to success that doesn't take skin off of anybody else's back. It's really you becoming great in the world. I want people to step into their natural greatness. And if we do that, then those people are going to help others step into their greatness. And the Iroquois phrase, which is about when you heal yourself, you heal 7 generations backwards and forwards. That's what I want my legacy to be.
Okay, very nice. Hey, it's been great to talk to you. Thank you so much for all of your time and your insights. Very interesting and informative, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. And you too, with your great podcast. Excellent.
Thanks so much. So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.